Loads of fun. The next sequence is probably the first lick that I could really play fast with picking. The lick is very similar to the sixes lick, except I don't descend, I only ascend. It'll be a little lower on the neck. I'll start on the low E string on the 7th fret with the B note. This is still in the key of E minor. There are a lot of shapes in this that are real good for the left hand also. The first one would be a half step and a whole step. It would be B, C, and D. And then E, F sharp, and G. It's the same thing we're doing, but 2 octaves lower. And I'm only ascending, only going up. The pattern continues on the A string, and you can see the last 3 notes I played were on the A string. So I just shift up to the next position, staying diatonic with that scale, which would give me the notes F sharp, G, and A. The shape, the left-hand shape, would be a half step and a whole step. So basically what I'm doing is going up 6 notes, and then shifting to the next pattern. From there, I do another pattern of 6 based on that position shift. So the pattern of 6 will be F sharp, G, A, and then B, C, D. On the D string, 10th position, you get the same shape of a half step and a whole step. And you're staying in the key of E minor. So that's going to sound like this. All alternate picking. So the upstrokes that you really want to watch are the E note, right here, and then the B note. There certainly are other upstrokes, but those are the ones that will be the hardest because that's where you have to cross over the next string. From there, just keep doing the pattern, where we ended on the D string, so go up to the next position on the D string, should be 2 whole steps, C, D, and E, and then to the G string to do our 6th pattern, which would give us the notes F sharp, G, and A. This is a shape that a lot of people find uncomfortable initially, but it's real useful to learn it because it's diatonic to E minor if you start on C. So far we have this. Let's continue. After we get to the A note, go up to the 12th fret on the G string and do 2 whole steps, B, G, A, and B. Then on the B string, to continue our pattern of 6, we'd have C, D, and E. From there, let's continue, go to the D note on the 15th fret of the B string with your first finger and do a pattern. The shape is again 2 whole steps. The notes would be D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. So basically what we have here is just a bunch of ascending 6s, patterns of 6 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. And because of the way it's fingered, each of those will start with a downstroke. Down, 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 down. So if you can practice that one initial lick, all the rest should be fairly easy to do. Because they're all picked exactly the same way. Let's give it a try up the tempo. You can hear how it sounds. Real hip. This sequence is pretty much the next step in picking. It involves a major scale, a C major, harmonized all 3 notes per string. So it's pretty much straight C major, but it's got all 3 notes on each string. The pattern that I use within it, the initial one, I took that 4 sequence again. We'll get real comfortable with this one after a while. Taking those that same kind of pattern, 4 notes up and down, 1, 2, 3, 4, and back down. Then I went up 6 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's pretty much the sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, back down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I do that based on each set of 2 strings. Right there I did it on the E and the A. Next I'll do it on the A and the D. keeping the shape of the scale, so I stay in the key of C, or A minor if you're a die-hard rock player. Next I'll do the D and G strings. Same kind of sequence each time, but just changing the left hand shape slightly to stay in the key. Then the G and B strings. That's a little more difficult for the left hand. There's a couple different ways you can do it. I found the way that's easiest for me is just to reach across with your second finger to go to the B string, and then shift up to your first finger on that same A note when you ascend in the 6-note pattern. Sounds complicated, but when you try it yourself, it'll be great. And then the last 2 strings, the B and E strings. So the whole thing together, up to tempo. Let's give it a try. Pretty terrifying. Let's slow it down a little bit so you can hear how it sounds rhythmically. One more time up to tempo. One thing when you're practicing these kind of licks that's really important and very easy to ignore if you're not careful is the synchronization between the left and right hands. Always make sure that you've got one pick per note with your left hand. You don't want to be doing that sort of thing. You know, if you lose synchronization, it starts to sound really kind of sloppy. Once you get a real synchronized feel happening, you know, you'll have you'll still it won't hurt your unsynchronized playing. You'll have no trouble sounding like this if you want to. So don't worry about losing that, and you'll have gained something much cooler, I have a feeling, by playing with synchronization. Another version of that pattern is exactly the same thing, but starting on the highest note of the scale, which is F, and basically just reversing the pattern. Originally it was 4 up and down, and then 6 up. So what I'm doing is starting on the highest note and going 4 down and up, and then 6 down. Let me play it real slow. The one thing that's a little bit hard to get used to, picking-wise, is that I start with a downstroke on this. Which is going to feel a lot different than the ascending version. Let's do the whole scale that way. At a slower tempo, it sounds like this. Then the B and G strings, 2 middle strings, the D and the A strings, and the lowest 2 strings, A and E. One time in tempo, fairly slow tempo. One thing you can use to get between licks that ascend and descend is a pattern I came up with. I'll go ahead and explain it. Starts out, it's all in C major, and starts on the G note on the B string, 8th fret, and the left hand shape will do 2 whole steps. So we have G, A, and B, in the same shape